This is the late 80s divided by early 90s. I was around 6 to 7 years old. I am at home with my sister, who is 14 to 15 at the time. We grew up in a small Texas town. Everyone knows everybody. We are home alone this particular night, and my folks let my sister babysit me frequently. We always got along due to our age gap. Anyway, it is about 8 p.m. in the winter. Deserts get pretty damn cold. So it is dark and we are in the common room. And that is where the TV was. Watching 60 Minutes or 48 Hours or hard copy or some shit. Those 1-hour news pieces on CBS that chronicle large crimes in depth, murders, kidnappings, and the like. Basically a gritty Lifetime special. This one was a typical story. Guy next door that was quiet went on a rampage in his next door neighbor's house, mutilating them and kidnapping their young daughter. Well, the thing about our house common room is the door leading to the backyard was a large glass door on a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows. Nothing but blackness being it unless you have the back light on. We did not. The front door is on the other side of the room, with a small entryway. This is a solid door, so you cannot see what is behind it, with a glass storm door on the outside of it. About 45 minutes into the show, they are talking about the ongoing manhunt for this crazy guy, and bam, front door bangs like crazy. We jump the fuck up and scream like banshees. Dead silence now. The only lights on in the house are the kitchen down the hall from the common room we were in and the light from the TV. We start thinking something on the porch. We had some planters and a rocking chair out there had simply blown against the door. This was West Texas. Crazy strong winds out that way. Well, a minute or two of silence and us holding each other post-adrenaline overdose passes. Just when we are about to declare everything is safe, we hear the storm door on the outside of our front door close. Someone had to have opened that door to be able to bang on the front door like that. Then, we are both frouncing in the middle of the room on the floor, where we had been watching TV. My sister crawls over to the TV and turns it off. It was an old TV, so you had to turn that metal dial to switch it off, which it does with a mildly loud thunk. Now it is just us in a room, dimly lit by the kitchen light down the hall. I do not remember how much time passed with my frouncing, and my sister still crouched by the now off TV. But we kept making eye contact, then looking at the front door. I remember this part vividly. I am on my knees sitting on my feet, and I turn around to look at the back wall of windows and glass door. We hear and I see the back door knob turn. It was locked on the knob but not debolted. It rattles slightly as if someone is gently trying the handle. Neither of us make a sound, just hold breath. Then bam, loud as all hell. Someone is trying to force the door open, just jerking it back and forth. The whole wall of windows is vibrating violently, and I can see with each jerk of the door how my slight reflection gets fuzzy, then clear, then fuzzy. My sister flips her shit and screams bloody murder. I am still frouncing on the floor. She gets up and basically drags me into her bedroom, slams the door, throws her mattress and anything she can in front of her door. Thankfully, she had remembered the phone, one of those ungodly heavy beige plastic long metal antenna portable phones. We still had to direct dial the sheriff there, and in her panic didn't remember the number. She just hit redial on the phone. It was one of her friends, and she tells them in broken gasps that someone is trying to get into our house and needs to get there right fucking now. The profanity sticks out here more than anything else. Who knows? Young brain. I am curled up on the floor and cannot stop shaking. We don't hear anything else until we see the headlights of my sister's friend and her parents driving up to the house. We never did find out who was at the door or why. There were no signs of anything happening, but a couple of scuff marks on the bottom of the back door that we could not remember if they were there beforehand or not. Nothing like that has happened to me or her since, but for damn sure we never forget to lock a door after that. So, my uncle used to work a lot when I was younger. He's done a lot of different things to make money, but one consistent thing is that in the summer months and into late fall, he paints houses. It's a legitimate business and everything. He's got a truck with a number and a name and supplies in the back. The works. Every now and then he would call my dad when he needed a little extra help and I'd work for him. No big deal, really. It's just painting houses. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it takes a while to paint a whole house. If the weather conditions aren't right, then you can paint. One particular fall was extremely wet. It rained what felt like every single day. My uncle would paint multiple houses at a time, so sometimes he would get caught up due to situations like these, and I'd work a little more than usual. That was fine by me though. The job wasn't hard and it paid well. Anyway, it was a warm day for late fall, but there was still a distinct chill in the air, one that kinda penetrated through you and stung your soul. My uncle had this job he had to finish. It was an old Victorian house in a quiet part of town. A lady and her husband, who was an author, lived there. Due to the weather, it had taken longer than expected to paint the house, and there were family issues going on at the time, which further complicated things. So, my uncle gets a call one day from the lady who lives at the house. She says that her husband is trying to write his next book, but he keeps getting distracted by the scaffolding outside the house. So she wanted to know if we could come over and finish the job as soon as possible. My uncle was always an honest businessman. They had contracted him to do the job in midsummer, but he had lots of jobs that summer, and the wet conditions I mentioned above made it difficult to finish anything. However, these people were insistent but really polite, and not wanting to lose customers or get a bad recommendation, my uncle decided to put the house as a high priority. After all, it would only take a day or two to finish. So, we show up to this house mid-afternoon. Like I said, it was a weird kinda chilly that day, and I also remember a really eerie calm. The day was slightly overcast, so everything was shrouded in gray. It was like the perfect setting for a mystery crime novel. So we arrive at this house and my uncle and I moved to the back. The front of the house was already done, so there was nothing left there. My uncle, being the more experienced painter, would always do the touch-ups, and I would simply apply the first coats, since they took little skill. Anyway, we get to the back of the house and he asks me if I'm scared of heights. I was 17 at the time, and although they do creep me out a little, I didn't want to seem like a child in front of my uncle, so I told him I wasn't. He was happy to hear that. He has me climb up the scaffold to the 3rd floor to finish an upper section of the house. There was a window up there, a small little oval one that looked into the attic. The attic also happened to be the husband's study. He would do most of his writing in there. So, I'm climbing up this scaffolding, cans of paint dangling behind me and various paintbrushes and other tools and the utility belt my uncle let me borrow. I get to the top of the scaffolding and set all my supplies down. I crack open a can of paint and start painting, like I had a few hundred times before. Outside of the temperature, the overcast, and the eerie calm, this day was like any other. I'm working my way across the top part of the house. When I get to the window that looks into the study, I bend down, dip my paintbrush, and stand back up to paint above the window. The window was in my direct line of sight, and I couldn't help gazing in. I see a man, the husband, staring back at me with a face completely barren of any emotion. I had never seen a face so devoid of feeling before. I still haven't. Of course, I get startled and take a step back. I chuckle and smile at the guy, but he doesn't smile back. Instead, while remaining completely emotionless, he draws a pistol up to his head that he was holding in his hand the whole time and proceeds to blow his brains out without ever breaking eye contact, right in front of me while I'm staring at him. In utter shock, I gasp and let out the smallest scream as I step back in fear. Only I stepped back a step too much and fell off the scaffolding. Alerted by the gunshot, my uncle looked up in just enough time to see me fall off the scaffolding from the third story. I was lucky enough to land in a bush and only suffer a broken ankle and a few scratches. The biggest wounds happened in my head. I had to go to counseling for a while. It's been years since then, and I still remember that man's face. I've never forgotten it. It will always be burned in the back of my head. I know why. Looking back, his face was so devoid of emotion because he never felt any emotion at all. He literally didn't care about what he was doing. As it turns out, the man was seriously depressed and facing marital issues with his wife, combined with a few too many nights drunk on whiskey and facing writer's block. I guess he decided he couldn't take it anymore. His wife moved out of the house shortly after, and we never finished the job. To this day, that house remains abandoned, and to this day, I try not to drive down the street it's on. I'm scared that if I do and happen to pass the backyard, I'll see that man staring back at me from that window, cold and emotionless. I'm a girl, and I live in a pretty big old house with 5 Navy guys. My room is by itself out in the detached garage. So one night I'm sleeping out there, and in my dream, I assume I'm hearing this loud rattling noise. I slowly start waking up, but I feel pretty out of it. I open my eyes and look around, and the noise continues. The door is about 3 feet from the end of my bed, and the doorknob is rattling like crazy. It almost sounds like someone is pounding on it, but I can't tell if it's someone knocking or someone just trying to open it. At this point, I realize I'm really awake and this is not a dream. Even my lamp, who never wakes up during the night, is up and staring at the door. I often used to forget to lock my door because we live in what seems like a pretty quiet neighborhood. But thankfully I'd begun deadbolting it more regularly, maybe like a week before, probably due to something I read on Reddit. I don't remember. I am terrified. I always hoped I'd be one of those people who responded better in a situation like this, but I was not. The door is still rattling, and I can see the motion light is on and shining through the window in my closet. All my blinds are closed. I am near tears, and I throw the blanket over my head and wait to die. I have literally nothing in my room that I could defend myself with except a flashlight, which I am holding on to tightly. I am paralyzed with fear and just sit there as silently as I can, curled up in the fetal position with my metal flashlight. A minute later, the noise stops, and I finally am able to move. I have a weird closet with a window at the top and a big bench. So I crawl in there, climb up on the bench, and poke my head up. A few seconds after that, the motion light goes out. I'd missed whatever was going on. I run back to my bed and begin thinking logically. I live with 5 guys. They often have people over late at night after going out downtown. I look at my watch and it's 2:30, about the time they'd get home from bars closing. Maybe someone was very intoxicated and just being stupid. But so I text all my roommates, trying not to make a big deal of it and sound silly. Hey guys, are you up? Do you have people over? Someone was just outside my door trying to get in. I assumed someone must be drunk or something. Ha, kinda creepy. Less than 2 minutes after that, I hear the back door to the main house swing open. I hear whistling and banging, and my roommates are running around the backyard with baseball bats. Thankfully, one of them is a light sleeper, and he woke up and got another guy up. I open the door, run inside with my dog, and don't go to sleep again that night. My roommates spent the next couple hours patrolling the house, watching out the windows. We never saw anyone, but they did find a pack of cigarettes lying in our backyard, along with a bag of Hardee's or something like that. More than likely, it was just someone trying to rob us, and because there were 6 cars in the driveway, they decided to go for the garage, where they probably assumed no one was in, not the house, where they'd probably get themselves killed. However, at the time, for all I knew, all my roommates had already been murdered and I was the last one to go. That's what I figured at the time anyway. Anyway, definitely not the scariest story in this thread, but I definitely didn't sleep for a while after that, and it took me about 3 weeks to start sleeping out in my room again.